Hello everyone, welcome to another Watchful Software webinar, this time on how data classification augments data loss prevention. Today we will begin by making some introductions and mention some house rules. Then we will move on to some business context and challenges. Give you some 5 reasons you need to step up your game and how RightsWATCH can help. Moving on to a short product demo and finalizing with some key takeaways. And of course, in the end, there will be time for some Q&A and wrap up. So my name is Katia Franco, and I serve as a product marketing manager at Watchful Software. The house rules for today are that you are all muted centrally, so you don't need to mute and unmute yourself. And this webinar is also being recorded, so you'll have access to it later on at watchfulsoftware.com in our resources page. And as I said before, the Q&A session will be at the end. However, anytime you are welcome to enter your questions on the questions feature in the GoToWebinar control panel. So, starting with the business context for today. The notion that an organization can be 100% secure is really unrealistic in today's hyper-connected world with no borders. So in this context, we actually pose a different question, not if you are totally secure, but rather if the information that matters most to your organization is secure enough. Secondly, one of the greatest challenges in managing data loss is the number of reasons and scenarios why it can occur. For example, the loss or theft of laptops or mobile devices, the unauthorized transfer of data to USB devices, or improper categorization of sensitive data, for example. And also printing and copying sensitive data by employees, or even data theft by even employees or external parties, just to give some examples. So to address the risks resulting from this data loss, we need to implement a solution that includes people, processes, and technology. For that, organizations have turned to data loss prevention tools as the answer to security breaches. And actually, existing DLP solutions do a good job at detecting and preventing unauthorized attempts to copy or send sensitive data without authorization. However, they do not always provide the comprehensive security solution, and unstructured data like emails, PDFs, Words, Excels, etc. can be leaked, lost, or stolen. Now, I would like to ask you to participate in this small poll. It will only take you a few seconds. We would like to know what is your major concern on implementing a DLP solution. So is it because it's time-consuming or complex to implement? Is it because it can be imprecise and generate a lot of false positives? Or is it the lack of transparency to the users? or maybe you have no concerns at all on this. So please state your opinion. Okay, so thank you very much for your participation. And let's move on with our presentation. So if you have or are considering a DLP solution, you need to keep in mind these 5 reasons on why you need to step up your game. So actually, DLP can be error prone, and it struggles in identifying and applying policies to unknown data formats, unstructured data, meaning anything outside of a database, and encrypted content. Second, the false positive dilemma. With DLP, a sysadmin needs to foresee every potential threat before it occurs to make it effective, because the input needs to be specific. If the setup of DLP is imprecise, when a policy is applied that should not be, false positives can occur. And third, it's actually complicated. And DLP initiatives can turn into long-term, never-ending projects because specific policies have to be turned into automated rules for each identified threat. So DLP initiatives require manual monitoring and regular policy updates to ensure that the security parameters are correct. And fourth, DLP can have a narrow focus. So DLP is not agile in enforcing access policies when data has crossed the perimeter of your company and it's outside the network defenses. It will either stop or not stop elements from coming inside and breaching the perimeter. Well, this means that sometimes threats can slip past the DLP protection in place. And finally, DLP requires knowledgeable users to optimize its functionality. Unlike antivirus protections and firewalls, for example, DLP is not transparent security control. DLP applies the policies established for its function and applies as instructed. And end users need to be educated and trained to ensure it is used properly. So, how can RightsWATCH help you in overcoming all of this? So first, RightsWATCH classifies unstructured data using content, context, and various metadata characteristics. So this means that you can use classification to feed the DLP with reliable information on the meaning and value of the data. And that complements the detection methods based on keywords and regular expressions. So in this way, the DLP knows exactly what is contained in the asset. RightsWATCH applies very specific rules to the data and applies tags to inform the DLP. So the DLP can take the appropriate action every time, and as a result, the incidence of false positives can be greatly reduced without compromising effectiveness. RightsWATCH also informs the user on how the data asset will be handled at the point of creation. So the user has the possibility to modify the content to mitigate any security issues at creation, and the DLP receives fewer non-compliant assets that it must act on. RightsWATCH, by applying the classification rules at creation, also relieves the DLP of excessive analysis. So the DLP can then process the assets, whether they're documents or emails, more easily and more quickly with improved precision and accuracy. So now we will move on to a short product demo. And with RightsWATCH, you can have actually two options: a standalone approach and a combined approach with the DLP. So we'll showing both of them. And also we'll also approach how RightsWATCH and an MDM can complement a DLP as a part of a 360 data loss protection strategy. And we will finalize with a summary of RightsWATCH benefits. So we will start by RightsWATCH standalone approach. So by deploying RightsWATCH as a standalone approach, you can have a simpler, cost-effective alternative to a full-blown DLP solution. RightsWATCH is able to warn and block actions from users for mitigation purposes, enforcing the organization's information handling rules. These rules can be applied to emails being sent via Microsoft Outlook or webmail, and files being saved by Microsoft Office. So as an example, we have here a typical usage scenario where a user tries to save a confidential Excel spreadsheet into a temporary folder. Okay, so in this case, a blocking rule was applied by RightsWATCH because the company's policy scheme states that confidential documents cannot be saved in external or temporary folders. So as you can see, the system explains to the user why this is happening, and it grays out the saved button so the user is not able to complete this action. So, however, you can configure RightsWATCH to prompt a warning rule instead of blocking the action. It depends on your organization's security policy. So RightsWATCH gives you both options. On the other hand, you can have a combined approach with a DLP system. And with this type of solution, digital fingerprinting can be tracked as metadata. And as RightsWATCH adds the RMS unique identifier to the metadata of emails, Microsoft Office files, and PDFs to leverage downstream technologies as DLPs. So by classifying and labeling unstructured data at creation, RightsWATCH vets the unstructured data with the enterprise's document management policies. And afterwards, the DLP can implement precise and deeply content-aware decisions about an asset. So using this approach, organizations can have mechanisms to discover information, monitor its flow, and protect it to prevent leakage to ensure compliance with information security and access policies, and to maintain, of course, an audit trail for control and compliance. So combining RightsWATCH classification with the DLP system allows you to remind users of information management policy as information is created, to enforce the policies, tag, watermark, append headers, add metadata before the data leaves the endpoint. You can track what type of unstructured data is being created and by whom, and streamline information classification and labeling across the extended enterprising, meaning mobile and BYOD. This is what brings us to our next slide. And DLP vendors have not been yet capable of installing native content-aware DLP software into tablets or smartphones. This is because of limitations in operating systems, APIs, the variability of operating systems configurations, different computing capabilities, and battery life expectations. So the solution is to associate an MDM tool, a mobile device management tool like Good or Mobile Iron, and with a data classification software like RightsWATCH. So using an MDM to manage the mobile device and combining it with RightsWATCH to manage the data on the devices provides a powerful solution that enhances your DLP system and allows you to have greater control on how and if sensitive information should be shared. So RightsWATCH is able to protect information in a BYOD world regardless of where the data resides, extends the Microsoft RMS to Android, iOS, and BlackBerry devices, perform damage control actions when a mobile device or smartphone is reported lost, stolen, or breached, provide data-centric mobile encryption protection with little to no user disruption, and grant or revoke access to sensitive information being accessed in a mobile device and smartphones on the fly. So summarizing, with RightsWATCH, you can automatically fingerprint and watermark according to the security policies in place in your company to decrease liability. You can also embed metadata, allowing DLP engines to pick it up, that classified information easily. You can integrate security seamlessly into the user workflow, extend security to multiple platforms and file types, improving your return on investment. As we have seen, also extend security to bring your own devices, platforms, and the mobile world. Provide an audit trail and, of course, enabling compliance and forensic ease. And finally, offer zero learning curve to your users because it integrates seamlessly in their workflow. To finalize our presentation, I would like to provide you with a few key takeaways on how you can optimize your data loss prevention program. And first, of course, identify and classify your data, as well as labeling it. And a well-developed, granular data classification scheme will enable your company to design and implement proper controls for different types of data. And this is really your starting point in your data loss prevention strategy. Secondly, you need to implement a data management lifecycle if you don't already have it. And actually a great challenge organizations have with data protection is the improper definition, classification, and storage of sensitive data at the point of creation. So if data is not properly defined, classified, and stored at the starting point, it can propagate throughout the entire organization, and that can make protecting it later an even greater challenge. So DLP can be very hard to implement in mobile and BYOD and cloud environments. So make sure you support yourself with tools that can integrate well and respond to this need. 4. Improve authorization and role-based access control measures. So you need to review data access controls and usage triggers. Define users and groups of users' roles and user access according to your policy scheme. 5. Update your policies and create user awareness. Actually, you should improve your security awareness program to incorporate data loss awareness in line with company policies to make sure that everyone is aware of the potential data loss risks. Clear guidance should educate employees on what is expected from them when handling the data. And finally, you should audit your own compliance and test your employee awareness through real-life examples and verify if they know what to do under specific circumstances. So we have time for a few questions if you have any. Actually, we have here one question. With which DLP solutions are you compatible with? Well, RightsWATCH is completely agnostic, so it can work with any DLP system you have. So I think we don't have any more questions. I remind you that you have this presentation available and the recording of this webinar available in our resources area at watchfulsoftware.com. You also have an handout available on your GoToWebinar interface. You can download it if you like. And if you have any more questions or you need to request a demo, you can send us an email at info@watchfulsoftware.com. And thank you so much for attending this webinar, and please give us your feedback on the short survey that will be presented at the end. So have a nice day and hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.